What is a job that requires little effort, but pays very well? Saying, I am Groot, and getting paid $55 million. I could never understand why they got Vin Diesel to do this when you could pay the janitor to do the same thing. They figured the box office gain from Vin Diesel's name being on the billing would be greater than $55 million. I just found out that Vin Diesel played Groot. There was an article a few years written by a guy whose job it is to literally watch paint dry for a paint manufacturer. Said it was boring but paid roughly $70K. Do I have to monitor the paint at all times, or can I just check in from time to time? Haven't heard it in a long time, but I think so. He had to watch it for hours under different conditions, humidity, temperature, and give a time that it could be considered dry. If there were issues, he had to note what time it happened. I forget the title, but basically escort at government facilities that require a security clearance. Pays like $80 to $90K, and all you have to do is walk non-cleared people like, say, the janitor, around the building and make sure they don't steal anything. If you can pass a detailed background check, you're in. Our maintenance personnel have to do that. Sometimes they make around $42 per hour. I have had to do this task before, and it is zero effort, but holy shit is it boring. My brother-in-law is a security guard for a mineral mine. Mostly walks around and reads books. He calls himself a paid witness in case a crime occurs. Makes good money for a decently leisurely job. Security guard in any remote area pays well but is very boring. Heck, even security guards in the city don't do a whole lot of work. So many times they are caught sleeping. A friend used to be a rice grader. He would go through a warehouse and inspect batches of rice by putting a handful in a tray and seeing how many grains were broken, how consistent they were, and how much non-rice shit was present. I asked him how it was quantified. He said something along the lines of, I don't know, man, you just kinda decide? He had zero qualifications or experience in the rice field. It paid $25 per hour, but that's damn good to just make up the rules of rice grading if you asked me. I'm now suddenly worried about the quality of my rice. So define little effort. I work in mining, which can be hard work. But if you start in heavy equipment operation, it isn't. You drive with limited other traffic, or you sit with a joystick and load trucks. It usually starts at $30 per hour, but can be as low as $20. And you usually get really long weekends. 5 on 5 off. 7 on 7 off. 28 on 14 off. 14 on 14 off. To get into specialized stuff it takes skill, but to drive a haul truck around all day doesn't. And $60 to $80 an hour if specialized at the right place. With lots of OT. My wife's uncle was a high crane operator in Manhattan. Owns a huge house on the beach, retired at 55 or so. He tells funny stories about carrying cash around to pay off cops and union guys to get his crane into place. What do you mean? Like he'd pay off cops and union guys so that he'd be able to use his crane? Yep. Just to get those cranes into town requires some bending of rules. They bring them in the dead of night. Real bonanza for cops working the night shift. Drawbridge operator. The job itself is crazy easy. It's literally a button pusher, and there's no prerequisite training or experience. Our local operator just retired, and because he was town employee, his salary was public knowledge. Pulled down 6 figures every year for 45 years. Note, there is obviously massive responsibility and professionalism required, so I'm not dragging anyone that does it. I've always wanted to be the guy that pushes the button to launch spaceships. I feel like I could start at elevators, move to drawbridges, and then boom, I'll crush the launch the spaceship interview. I'm a barber. School was $18,000 for 1,500 hours of training, 9 months full-time. I spent the first 7 years of my career struggling to learn and produce consistently good work, but now I make $80 per hour, about $112,000 annually. My clients and I have a 12-year relationship, and most days I feel like I get to hang out and laugh with my friends all day. Hasn't felt like work for the last few years. They leave looking and feeling great, which makes me feel great. I honestly feel guilty that teachers, nurses, and other vital workers who spent so much time and money on their education often earn 1/2 of what I do. So serious reply. Look into purchasing roles in most corporations. They manage their suppliers, negotiate contracts, place POs, etc. I would say they are optimal in terms of pay per effort. Plus, they usually get perks like more travel, holiday goodies from their suppliers, stable work hours, job security, etc. I'm currently one at my company. I just work from home. The previous person basically set up everything already for me, and most of the time I work 0 to 2 hours a day in any given week. I'd say don't fix what's not broken, and we already have an established relationship with our suppliers for years. Austin City Council just very quietly gave themselves a raise to $116,688 and do absolutely nothing. So I'm going with that. I'm a limo driver. I make $35 per hour driving from point A to point B. I've been working in corporate America for 20 plus years, and I've found that the higher up I move in the company, the less actual work I do. How does one get into corporate America? I feel like that type of job requires one to be charismatic. Majority of people I work with do not have much charisma. Just figure out Excel or SQL if you are feeling adventurous. Then apply for an analyst position at a financial institution. Of course, you may need the prerequisites of a college degree and being really good looking. Definitely not a full-time job, but the local police department gave my buddy some money, then brought him to a bar, fed him booze, and then gave him a field sobriety test, gave him more drinks, more tests, and then eventually dropped him off at his house. I got to do this for our security forces squadron when I was in the Air Force. Commander asked for volunteers over the age of 21, which, right off the bat, seems like there's gotta be booze involved somehow. They put about 12 of us in a conference room with a full bar and supplies for various drinking games. They came back 3 or 4 hours later to practice administering field sobriety tests. Hands down the best volunteer opportunity of my 10-year career. One of my buddies who's an X-ray technician said some days he has 1 hour of actual work out of an 8-hour shift. When I commented he's got it good, he said he gets paid for what he knows, not what he does. I suspect most jobs that pay you well without much actual work is the same. You are being paid for your expertise. There was a job at Lockheed Martin or Boeing requiring no skills but paid $90,000 annually. Plus they're generous 401k and benefits, blah blah blah. It was a crazy job. A man would crawl inside a fuel pod for a plane and scrub it out. The pod was very cramped and feels distinctly like being buried alive. So think claustrophobic. The tools were a toothbrush and a flashlight. You had to stay zen because it was super easy to panic and start flailing wanting to get out. They always did it in pairs, so your partner talks you out of any situation and keeps you company, and you take turns. Management understood this was a psychologically taxing job. Guy I knew who did it drank himself to sleep at night. He didn't like the job. Overnight concierge at luxury apartment condo buildings in metropolitan areas. The morning and afternoon shifts you're dealing with incoming packages most of the day, sorting, labeling and fetching them. Overnight barely handles any of that, if at all. It's just a matter of being fine with having a schedule like that or putting up with such a boring job. Pay might not be as well as a lot of the other jobs I get, but relative to the work performed, it pays you for sitting at a desk from 12 a.m. to 8 a.m. doing next to nothing. I don't know the job title unfortunately, but my sister got a job with some environmental protection agency overseeing Verizon putting up cell towers near Woods Mountains lakes. She was getting paid $50 per hour, had an awesome company truck with a generous food hotel stipend, and was working in beautiful scenic areas where the rich go to get away. All she did was make sure the Verizon workers didn't endanger or kill or harass the wildlife in the area. At the end of the day, she would just mark off a checklist. Her day consisted of watching whatever she wanted on her phone, occasionally glancing at the workers, and then eating a 5-star meal at a 5-star hotel. She left the job because she got bored easily. I would have done just fine at that job and was jealous AF LOL. You did need a bachelor's in biology though. Freelance 3D animator. It requires a little bit to learn, but once you're over the first small hump, and it is pretty small, you can get jobs working for lawyers doing accident reconstruction or factories doing machine operation videos and make bank for doing very little. Obviously you can hone your skills more and go on to work in games, movies and other stuff, but honestly the core that hire you to do technical animations tend to have bottomless pockets, somewhat low production standards, and ask very few questions of where your hours go. Brutally honest, most of the military. You spend your first 6 months, minimum, just doing training. Yes, it's physically demanding, but it's not like you have to deal with customers or deadlines or any deliverables. And absolutely nothing besides a GED is required to be hired. After training, you go to your unit where you are basically told exactly what you have to do every minute of the day. Show up, do what you are told. As long as you stay out of trouble, you will be fine and also get promoted. At the 1-year mark, you should be an E3. That $2,100 a month of disposable income. Food and housing are either provided to you or you get an allowance for it. Medical and dental is 100% free. Education benefits are extremely generous, and that's on top of the even more generous GI Bill you qualify for after 3 years. You have a mix of a defined contribution, 401k, and defined benefit, traditional pension, retirement plan. Unless you screw up, you will be an E4 at the end of your 2nd year, and for the most part still being asked to just who up and do what you're told. Pay jumps to $2,500 a month, and again, that's mostly disposable. End of year 3, you should be an E5 making $3,000 a month. Working out is part of the job. Sick leave is unlimited, and there are tons of opportunities for amazing schooling plus fun stuff like jumping out of airplanes, tear-assing around in tanks and helicopters, plus shooting all kinds of stuff. You get 30 days of paid leave a year and effectively another 30 days of federal holidays and training holidays. That means you work for 10 months and get paid for 12. A recent survey conducted across the Army indicated the average Army enlisted person worked 5.5 hours a day, including PT time. Not a bad deal. Side note: occasionally people try to kill you, but you get paid an extra $7.50 a day for that. What is a job that requires little effort but pays very well? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.